Unlocking the Truth, another podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. My name is Dr. Leslie Phillips and I will be your host for approximately the next hour. And as usual, I'm here in the studio with Corey.
Hello, Dr. Leslie. I wish I could see you from where I sit.
Oh, yes. Let me move my screen so you can. Oh, I can't do it. Well, yes, so welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, everybody. And if you're tuning in for the first time, then let me tell you about Unlocking Your Truth. It's a talk show about metaphysics and spirituality. And every week we have a different topic of discussion that we talk about and that we welcome your calls. And this week is no exception. We're actually going to cover a topic that we've never covered in the 2 years that we've been doing this show, and that is palmistry.
Yay!
Yes, and to help us do it, we're actually going to have a guest. And I will introduce our guest in a moment, but I believe that she's been doing palmistry for a really, really long time. And so she has many years of experience and expertise to share with us.
And she's really excited about being on the show.
Yes. Just before I introduce our guest, I'm going to read out our phone number, and I will do that at regular intervals because, of course, you, the listeners, are welcome to phone us up and join in the conversation, as well as to ask your questions for an intuitive insight.
However, being that Myrna Lou is a palm reader, she cannot read your palm on the radio, so don't call in and ask her to do that.
But she can answer questions about palmistry. All right, so the phone number here is 604-504-7441, extension 4142. Once again, that's 604-504-7441, extension 4142. And of course, if you're a bit shy, you're welcome to email us at info@drlesliephillips.com. So without further ado, like I said, our topic today is palmistry. And so our guest is a lady called Myrna Lou Goldbaum. And she is a master palmist, an author, and a soulmate specialist. And she's written quite a number of different books. So she's written a book called May I See Your Hand? Palm Reading for Fun and Profit. Another one called Soulmate Connections, because she's an expert on soulmates. Everything you ever wanted to know about relationships, love, romance, and soulmates. And she's also written The Diary of a Palm Reader and Cruise to the Other Side, a Metaphysical Journey. She's a producer and television host of a show in Colorado called Soulmate Connections. And she's got lots of awards and an enormous amount of experience as well. In her career, she's read over 54,000 palms in 93 different countries. So she really is an expert on this subject. So welcome to the show, Myrna. How are you this evening? Hello, Myrna. Welcome to the show. Hello, Myrna. Oh, I don't know what's happened there with the sound. Yes, I do.
I can hear you.
Yes, hi, Myrna. My apologies.
One button too few.
Yes. Well, welcome to the show, and how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, and I was excited to be here. I think it'll be a fun evening.
It will. Yes, and we're delighted to have you, and we'd love to pick your brains all about palm reading and about soulmates as well.
Okay.
And so, how long have you been reading palms?
Well, I was started when I was 10, so I'm going to be 78, so I guess 68 years.
Wow. And what got you interested in it? Was it something that members of your family did and taught you? Or
No. Nobody in my family does this. When I was 10, I went to a hospital where my mother was a nurse, and I went after school to get a ride home. I think I was in the 3rd or 4th grade, and she couldn't leave because the next shift forgot to show up, and she was the charge nurse. So she said, we have to stay 8 hours, and I got really noisy. So she sat me down, and she grabbed a book off of the volunteer wagon, and she said, here, read this. And she didn't look at the title or the author or anything. She just gave me a book. So I sat there, and I couldn't make heads or tails out of it. It was very complicated. But every page had a different illustration on it, and I memorized the pictures. Then I went home, and my sister, who was sick, I grabbed her hand, and I started reading her hand. And so I say she's number 1 because I learned on her poem. And I've been doing it ever since.
That's really amazing. And
in other words, self-taught.
Yes, well, that's fabulous. And in a way, I sometimes think that is the best way to learn something, because then you're not influenced by other people's information. You can, just get straight to your own information and experience.
Part of it's intuition, part of it's psychic ability, and then it's also, I use the lines as my tool, and that's how I get in.
Exactly.
So if somebody has a problem, it's going to show right up. I can get it right away.
Yes. Now, we're born. Now, maybe you know better than I do, I'm sure. But we're born with our fingerprints and certain lines on our hands. Do the lines change over time?
Yes. A newborn baby comes in and they have a few lines because they haven't lived very long yet. And then the baby has experiences and grows, and it's 16 and it has more lines. And by the time you're my age, there's a whole lot of lines. But they meander, they start, they stop, new ones come. It changes all the time. We have an experience every minute of every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if anything really impacts your brain and you're going through something, it's going to show on your hand. So every little thing doesn't show, but the major things that you go through, if you had surgery, or if you went through a divorce, or if you're going through a troubled time in a work situation, that shows up on a hand.
So what are the types of things that you can tell people in a reading when they come to you for a palm reading?
Well, first, the men usually want to know about money and job opportunities, and if they're going to get passed over or get to go up the ladder. And the women want to know about love and romance. So first thing I do is have everybody sign in, and I take their handwriting, and I can tell by the way they write their hand if they're a slob or if they're a perfectionist or if they are careful or if they're a little bit slipshod. Then, after I do that, I start reading the hand, and I can tell from looking at the shape of the hand, the fingers, the fingernails, the fingerprints, everything on there is like a whole lot of clues or a blueprint, and it's like I can read the blueprint.
So how much of what we experience in life, in your opinion, is predetermined, and how much is based on our own free will and us creating our own reality?
Well, I think free will is very important, and I think that you're not predetermined that you're going to go to college or not. You have to want it when you're at a certain age, and you work towards it and work for it, and you get there and work at it. And so it can't be predetermined.
So what do you tell people when they come and say, will I make lots of money? Will I get the job I want? Will I meet my soulmate?
Well, I look there, and if it shows they're going to get passed over, I say, well, there's 3 of you up for this opportunity, and you're one of the 3, but I don't know if you're going to get it or not. Tell me a little bit about your interview. And they tell me, and I'll say, so you've already had 2 interviews. And they say, how do you know that? Well, it's on the hand. It shows up and down twice already, and they're nervous about it. So I don't predict, and I don't tell people what to do, but I show them what I see there.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. So you give them information so that they can use their own free will and make their own decisions about their life. And now, I understand that there are many lines on your hand, but there are 5 basic or major lines that typically a palm reader would start with. What are they?
Well, first of all, there's more than one kind of palmistry. And the kind that I do is Oriental. It comes from China. So I call it Asiatic or Asian palmistry. There's Hindu Indian. There's Mediterranean. There's all different kinds. So the kind that I do calls out the 5 basic lines, which are the lifeline, the love line, the work, reproduction, and the bracelet.
Oh.
And Hindu Indian calls it the headline, the fate line, and I don't even look at fate because I think your whole hand is your fate. So I don't say this is your fate line.
I was going to ask you about the fate line actually, and it's because I never had a fate line on either of my hands. And I do now have one going halfway up my right hand, but I originally I didn't have one.
Are you right-handed?
Yeah.
That's why the lines are changing, because now you're going to be doing different things than you've done before. That equals change. And change is what makes the world go around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're either in a change mode or it's coming. If it's only halfway down your hand, that means you're in the beginning part of it, and the change will be here soon.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be a small change as you change the day that you do your show. Or it could be a big change that you get your own TV show.
Oh, I like that one.
Like that one? Well, I don't have your hand in front of me, and I guess I should have told you to email it to me. And if you send it to my email, I could read it right while we're talking.
Would you come on a television show if we have a television show?
Of course.
Okay.
I have to fly a little bit. I live in Florida, but,
We can do remote viewing.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, we could do it on Skype.
Exactly.
So you've read over 54,000 palms. Wow. So what have you learned about people in all these years and all that time focused on this art of palmistry?
Well, I learned something from every single hand that I read. My mother once said to me, "Aren't you bored with this yet? Why do you still like it?" Well, every hand is like a book that you can open up and see all kinds of things and possibilities. So I like to do it because I learn too. I also like to guide people and help them if they're in a situation, and I like to help them figure out what to do to make it better. So I learned in human nature it's wonderful to be a giver, and I am a giver, not a taker. So I give my time. I just worked in an animal rescue place on Sunday. I gave 4 hours for a fundraiser. And I didn't have to do that. I wanted to. And so any money that I made and all the tips, I just turned it all in.
That's nice.
So I learned by giving. If you're giving, you get an up out of it. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, now, you've been doing this a long time and you're really dedicated to it. What's your, and you've written quite a few books. What current projects are you working on?
Well, right now I'm writing my 5th book. The one called Cruise to the Other Side was my first paranormal novel. And I had so much fun doing it that I decided to write another one. So now I'm on another cruise ship, and there's a palm reader in the storyline in both of them. And this one's about a kidnapping on a ship, and it's called What Happened on the Emerald Deck. And on ships, they have different decks. And so this woman, I'm writing the story of a nanny who kidnaps one of the babies that she's supposed to be taking care of. And I'm not completely done yet, but I have it in my head, and I know where I'm going with it. And right now I'm up to the FBI coming in.
Sounds a little bit like Agatha Christie. Is the palmist going to solve the mystery?
No, the palmist is the one that tells her to go. But I knew how to write that part of it. I knew what to say and what words should come out of the palmist's mouth.
Well, it sounds like
I'm having fun with this one now.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun. And maybe tell us about the other books, the ones on palmistry. We'll talk about soulmates after the break. But
the first book I wrote, I didn't even know what the word channeling meant, but I wrote it in 1 hour. You can't write a book in an hour.
Wow.
It came out of me. It just burned out of me, and I wrote it longhand on a clipboard. And I just kept writing and throwing the sheet down on the floor and then writing some more. And when I filled the sheet up, I threw it down and took another one. But I forgot I did it. I went to bed. We had a 3-story house that time in Colorado. I went back to going up the 3 flights to bed, and I forgot about it till the next day when I was doing laundry, and I looked in my palm reading room where I usually did where I did my sessions, and there was papers all over the floor. So I yelled to my husband, "Come quick, we've had a robbery, somebody's been in my room." So he runs down the steps, and he looks and he goes, "This is your handwriting." And I didn't even know. So we played a game called concentration, where you take everything and turn it upside down. And we had a big L-shaped family room. So we laid all those sheets on the floor, and then he would pick one up and say, "I have a thumb." And I'd pick one up and say, "Nope, I got a baby finger." Then he'd say, "I got the wrist." And I'll say, "Nope, I got the baby finger again." So until we got it to match up, it took 100 hours.
Oh, wow.
I got it on the computer, and then I got a publisher, and it's called Me, I See Your Hand. And I teach classes in that, and I use that book today even.
That's an amazing story. Now, do you believe in past lives, Myrna? Because
yes, I do.
I'm sure you must have had lots of experience reading palms before you came to this life. It really sounds like you must have done.
No, I think I was only here one other time, and I was a master last time. And I believe that your sex changes each time you come back. So last time I was a male, this time I'm male. I don't think I have to come back because I got my soulmate this time. So I think that when my time comes, I will just ascend, and I don't have to come back. But some people have been here many, many times, and they are searching or they're seeking something and they haven't found it or they haven't completed. That's why they come back to complete whatever they didn't finish in the other lifetime. So when I read a hand, I can tell somebody, "Well, I see you've been here 11 times," and then I can tell them a couple of their past lives, what I thought they did or why they passed. And I could say, an example would be, "I see you lived during the time of Christ and you died when you were 35. But, oh, that's okay, everybody died that age in that century." And then I'll look again and I'll say, "Oh, do you like American Native Indians?" And they say, "Yes, I do." I say, "Well, you were an Indian. And you got shot by it was friendly fire your own people might have gotten you when they were shooting buffalo or, bows and arrows."
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll look and I can read past lives too.
That's great. So we're going to go to a break now, and after the break we're going to pick your brains about soulmates. So stay tuned, listeners. We're talking to Myrna Lou Goldbaum, who is a master palmist, author, and soulmate specialist. We'll be back after these messages. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. My name is Dr. Leslie Phillips, and I'm your host. And tonight on Unlocking Your Truth, we have a guest. Her name is Myrna Lou Goldbaum, and she's a palmist and a soulmate specialist, and she's written books on both of those subjects, and she has been practicing her craft for a really long time. Now, if you want to phone in the show and ask her a question about palmistry or soulmates, then you can call 604-504-7441 extension 4142. Or you can email info@drlesliephillips.com with your question. So, welcome back, Myrna. And
I'm here.
That's great.
That's good to hear.
Yes. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how, I mean, it sounds like the palmistry thing was the first thing that you got into. So tell us the story of how you got into soulmates and how you help people find their soulmate.
Well, what happens is, like I said, most of the women want to know about love and romance, and the average age of the women that I read is between 35 and 50, and they go, I want something, I don't know what it is, and then I look in their hand and I go, what do you want, a partner? And you've been married X number of years and you don't have one. And they'll say, well, yeah. And then I'll say, so you just got divorced a year ago, or whatever the situation is. And so I started thinking about, I do a lot of things. I see murderers, kidnappers, embezzlers, blackmailers, people who think they've been on a UFO, all kinds of stuff. But the most things that I see, it has to do with love and romance. And the men are the ones who cry the most when they come to a session, and I'm reading them, and I tell them about their soulmate. They say, I must have an allergy, and they wipe their eye, and I have to leave the room for a minute. I can't take it. But it's because I hit them right where it counts. So the book I wrote called Soulmate Connections was the name of my TV show also, same name. And so what I did was the first 17 pages have things in there that nobody's mother even tells them when they're dating. And it's stuff like how to recognize a soulmate, will they stay forever, what do you need from each other, what's karma, will they stay for the rest of my life, there's just a lot of things. 15 qualities to look for in a soulmate when you're dating. And mistakes not to make this time, red flags to look for. There's a lot of stuff I jam-packed into the first 17 pages. Then it has 46 love stories, and it starts with Irma Bombeck, who's a famous writer.
Mm-hmm.
And every one of the stories is a soulmate story. And so a lot of people like to take this book to work and read it like on a break or on their lunch hour. And you could read one story or a couple of them. They're only a couple pages long each. But then it's not like a novel where you get the characters in your head, then you go have life and come back and forget where you left off. But this book, they can just read story 1, story 2, story 3. And so I had fun with it because I went back in my mind all the way to 1956, which I was still in high school then. And I dragged stuff out of my brain from people and things that happened where I read hands where I saw that it was a soulmate connection. And so the book has helped a lot of people because a lot of people don't even know what a soulmate is. I say, do you know what it is? And they go, oh yeah, we get along. That isn't it. That's only 1/90th of it. To me, a soulmate, there's a mark on the hand that's down by the wrist and it looks like a pyramid. So if you're right-handed, Dr. Leslie, take your right hand, put your elbow on your stomach, throw your hand out in front of your face, and crinkle your hand up a little bit towards your nose. Do you see a pyramid on your, it's not on the wrist, but it's right next to the wrist and on your palm?
I do actually.
Okay, that's your soulmate mark. So a soulmate takes two people. There's a left side and a right side to a pyramid, and it goes to a point. So the point is actually the connecting place. And it's where two people who are like-minded, who feel the same way about many things, and they're able to communicate. And so I came up with the pyramid because that's my idea of what it is. And I think that here's what I think every relationship should have. That's a soulmate relationship. First, there's communication. Then there's physical appearance of the couple. So somebody who's 18 isn't going to be with somebody 80. That would be a complete wrong. They have to look like they're from the same era. Then spirituality is important, and that means God-like on the inside, if you're a giver and not a user. So if somebody fell down and broke their leg, you go say, can I get 911 for you? Can I help you? Can I stay with you? You wouldn't say, I'll let somebody else get it. I think I'll look the other way. So to me, that's spirituality. Then sexual compatibility is a private thing, but it means you're on the same page. And then similar belief system, either you're both believe there's a higher power or you don't. But if one does and one doesn't, they're going to be fighting about that. So you want to be on the same page with all that stuff. And that's why I invented the soulmate pyramid. So I have put together over 3,000 couples. That's 6,000 people. And that's in a lot of years. But I've had a lot of wedding invitations and a lot of wedding presents. I had to give checks to people because I can't go to all those weddings. And then I got baby announcements after they were married a year or two. Then that started coming in. So, of the people that I put together, most of them have not gotten divorced, which means that a true blue soulmate is who you're supposed to be with.
So does everyone have that triangle on their hand, or?
Oh, I don't have one. It's one in a couple. Only one in a couple has to have it. My husband has a really big one.
Oh.
Really elongated one. But I look all the time. I don't have it. I've been married 3 times, and the first husband died after 20 years, and if he hadn't passed away, I'd still be there. Because that was a good, stable marriage, but it wasn't a soulmate. I didn't know what it was till I got it.
So what you're saying is, if one in a couple has this triangle,
then that's a possibility that that's your soulmate.
Oh.
Means you knew them in a past life. So here's my example. Let's say you were grandpa last time, and grandma died, and you didn't get to the hospital 500 years ago to say goodbye in time. This time you're you meet the person who was grandma, who's your grandpa, but only the memory bank that's inside you remembers that, because you're you now. And you find that person and you go, I feel so comfortable with you. I know, I'm so glad I met you. And it's because grandma and grandpa are now completing what they didn't get to finish, and now that's a soulmate.
Right. Yes. I think Corey's got a question to ask you.
I have a question that came in from one of our listeners, and I understand you can't read her palm or anything, but maybe you could give a couple of words of advice to her in general. And it's a little bit like soulmates, because I also believe that there are certain people that travel with you from life to life, and this is Missy, and Missy says, so how do I develop an understanding relationship with my sister? So obviously she's having some issues with her sister. What kind of advice could you give somebody like that?
Okay, well, I have a sister that's completely unlike me, and that's the same thing. They're not alike. So when you have likes, it's easy, and when it's opposites, then it's a little bit more friction, it's harder to, 2 sisters could be soulmates too. It could be 2 men. It doesn't mean gay. It just means that you didn't complete something in another lifetime. So, depending on what age Missy is and what age her sister is, if there's a big age difference, then it would make a big difference. If it's just 4 or 5 years or a few years, it means they're on the same playing field, but that they have different likes, different attitudes, different way they vote, everything's different. And so that's why they don't get along, because they're coming from, it's like the North Pole and the South Pole. So the advice would be that you either try to make it better and try to get along, or you just leave it be. Can't force it.
Great advice, thank you. I just thought I'd throw that one in because it seemed like it fit quite nicely in what you were talking about.
Okay, well, on some shows, I have people email me their hand and send it to me ahead of time, like a week before, and I work them up. And then when we're on the air, I talk to the person, and I have their hand in front of me.
So, I have a sense of humor, so every once in a while it has to come in. So when you work with somebody from the underground, do they actually send you the hand?
From the underground.
You mean like the mafia or something?
No.
Just kidding.
Oh, they send me from this realm that we live in.
Yeah.
So, human hands are the mirror of the soul. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but they're the servant of the brain. So your brain grew that hand in your mother's womb. And then all the lines move around because you're having experiences that impact your brain.
So did you ever get
a woman and her sister aren't getting along, it means their brains are in opposition of each other and not in the same line. They should be lined up together.
Do you ever get a hand that confuses you?
That amuses me?
Confuses or amuses. One or both.
Yeah, I only had two that I couldn't read. Out of all those, I'm at 54,550 right now. And I document every single one of them. And there was two out of all those that I couldn't read. And both those people said, yeah, I heard that before. Every time I go to a palmist, they dismiss me. And that's because their hands were too confusing. Usually I can dissect it in my head and do it, and I don't have a problem.
Is that the physical nature of the hand, or are you talking about the psychic side on your side?
A little bit of both. I use the lines as a tool, and that's how I get in. That's why I have them write their name and sign in when I first do them. Then, because I've been doing this for so long, I'm at the top of the line. I can't get any better. If I'm not good now, I'm not going to be good. I get 90 to 95% right, so that's pretty good. So what happens is, I look at a hand and I give them I tell the truth, in other words. I don't say, you will meet a tall, dark stranger, because I don't like stuff like that. I say, so you haven't been going out because you haven't been reaching out, you haven't been risking, you didn't try a new lecture or go take a new class, did you? And they go, no. I go, well, if you did some of those things, you might mix it up. The energy would change, and maybe you'd run into somebody that you have something in common with. Then I get the phone call, and they go, well, I listened to you. I took a class. Guess what? We're living together. So that's not confusing. That's I get a little high out of that when that happens.
So Myrna, you've been telling us that the lines on the hand change throughout life, but the fingerprints stay the same, don't they? What's the significance?
The fingerprints just show there's three kinds, and so it shows if a person's artistic or creative. It shows if they have a mind like an engineer. There's characteristics of fingerprints that define the person. And so I don't even look at them. I mean, I know when I teach a class, I teach fingerprints, but I don't study them because when I'm doing a reading, there's so much other stuff. You asked me what the 5 basic lines were a little while ago.
Right.
So the love line and the soulmate are two different things, but they're really the same thing. So the lifeline is the line that starts on the baby finger side of the hand, and it goes across towards the middle of the hand. And it's under the fingers about an inch down. Do you see that line?
Yeah.
A long, skinny line. That's a lifeline.
Yeah.
Then if you look on the thumb side of the hand, that would be the love line side. And if you see a wishbone type shape thing there, that's two people who are uniting. Doesn't mean a marriage all the time. Sometimes it just means your first love, and it shows two people who unite. And then if you look a little further down by the wrist, and the soulmate mark is there, usually the love line kind of winds around and connects to it. So it looks sort of like a train track or a ski track.
Mm-hmm.
It runs down the middle of the hand, and those two lines connect to the pyramid that I was talking about. That's the soulmate symbol. So you have the love line and the lifeline and the soulmate symbol. Then there's work, which is under the thumb, and the thumb is called the heel of the thumb. Underneath it, there's a big, like a fat thing that's your thumb.
Yeah.
And so everybody has a crease there, where the thumb is connected to the hand. I don't count that. But from the crease over to halfway across the hand is age 10 to 50. So that's where I usually look for work. And some people are my age, and they're on the other side of that line, and I can look there and see that. Then there's a money line that has to do with work and with creativity, and if the person is producing and bringing money in. And that all has to do with under the thumb, the heel of the thumb. Then reproduction is on the baby finger, right where the finger is connected to the hand. If there are lines that go straight up, those are boys. And if there's lines that are parallel, to the finger, those are girls. And then the bracelets are the rings around your wrist. So if you crinkled your arm up again, you would see a whole bunch of bracelets or stripes going across your wrist. And each one of those rows are worth 25 years.
Uh-oh.
So those are the 5 basic lines that I worked with.
Corey said, uh-oh.
Yeah. Do scars and things that happen to your hands alter the actual readings that you do? I know that you can cut or something, but do they add or change to the...
Okay, the person's hand is their hand. I can't do anything about that. If I give them some guidance or I tell them to do some different things and they do it, then the lines are going to change if it impacts their brain. If they go take a class and it's exciting and they get a lot out of it, and then they meet somebody and it's their soulmate who is also taking that class, it's going to show up on the hand. And if they don't go, or if they go and nothing happens, nothing shows up. The hand is the same as it was before they went.
So the hand actually alters. It actually alters.
Yep.
Well, I'll have to go for another break, but we will return after these few short messages, listeners, and continue talking to Myrna Lou Goldbaum about palmistry and soulmates. We'll be back soon. Hello, listeners, and welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. My name's Dr. Leslie Phillips, and I am your host. And we have this week been talking about palmistry and soulmates with Myrna Lou Goldbaum. If you would like to phone up and ask a question about either of those subjects, then please call 604-504-7441, extension 4142. Now, I'm quite interested in asking you about the history of palmistry, Myrna. But I assume it's a very ancient art. What can you tell us about its origins?
Well, it started in the year 3000 BC, and I'm sure you've heard of Caesar and Aristotle and those people. They all used it before they went into battle. And so, actually, Hindu started in 2000 BC, and then 1,000 years later, this one came out of China. So they discovered that palmistry unlocks the secrets that are hidden in a person's psyche. It can heal old wounds, and it assists one on the right path. So they started using it as the way to find their way out of problems. And actually, it does help people when they have problems.
So how does it help heal old wounds?
Well, if a person's got self-talk in their head and it's going around and around and around, and they can't get over, a lost love or whatever it is that's bothering them, and they have a palm reading session, and then they have peace of mind, and they quit doing that because after the session's over, they feel a relief because now they know they have something to look forward to if I show them what's out there. I show them what their future might have if they make changes, but they have to make the changes. They have to grow, and people have to go forward and not backwards. And a lot of people stagnate; they don't go anywhere. And in order to go forward, you have to stop the self-talk, heal your mind, and you heal it by not having negative self-talk to yourself. So that's part of palmistry helps that.
Yeah, you touched on something just a little earlier that intrigued me a little bit. And you said that some people come to you and they want to know if they're an alien or have been abducted by aliens. Have you ever encountered anybody or anything?
Alien?
Yeah, UFOs.
Yeah, I had 2 different people. One was a Looney Tune, and he said, I was at a fair, and he said, could you read my hand really quick? The mothership is circling the building. Want to take me to my new planet. So that wasn't so good. But then I did one once, and a man came to my house, and he said he spent 3 days trying to get there, and I didn't know what he was talking about because he had an appointment. And then after the reading was over, I knew what he meant because he came out of a mental institution. He ran away. He got out the front door, and it took him 3 days of walking to get to me. But he heard me on a radio show in Denver, Colorado. He called, made the appointment, and then he came. So when he was in my house, I got the creeps from when he was talking, and he was showing me, look here, I have a pouch in my wrist. They put a little implant in there. Look at my nose. There's one here, too. So I took him outside, and we sat on the patio outside, and I finished his reading. I couldn't be in the room with him because he was creepy. So then he says, I've been sleeping under a bridge abutment downtown for 2 nights, but I like all the people. They like my stories about UFOs. And so they give me their blankets, and they're giving me some of their food. And he had escaped the insane asylum, and he was coming to see me. So I don't think he was an alien. I think he was just mentally not all there.
I think a lot of us are just like one step away from being locked up sometimes.
I would like to, if it's okay with you, give out my website.
Oh, please do. Yes, we were definitely going to ask you that. It is getting close to the time, so please do.
I want to do that. So it's www.myrnalou, and it's spelled MYRNALOU is my middle name. So it's www.myrnalou palmistry, which is PALMISTRY.com. So I tell people you see Mary Lou all the time, so just think of it as Myrna Lou, all one word. And so I have all my books. I have stock of them, and they're also on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. The Soulmate book is also a e-book. They can get that for like $2.99 if they wanted an e-book of it, or they can get the actual hard the paperback. And Cruise to the Other Side is also an e-book. The May I See Your Hand that I teach out of is almost out of stock, and it's I had it printed in Canada. I have to get another printing.
So Myrna Lou, do you have any courses coming up? Because listeners, I think if you want to learn palmistry, Myrna Lou would be a wonderful person to learn it from. There's probably no one else with so much experience in our world. So
if they live near here, I can't. Yeah. I teach people. I've taught people on the phone and on the computer, one-on-one, but actually I teach classes where I have people read each other, and I can tell if they're getting it or not. So first, it's a 2-hour class. That's all it takes. That's how simple this is. And so at the end of 2 hours, I guarantee they can read or they don't get to go home. I've only out of 3,040 people, only 2 didn't get it. And I just started all over and spent another 2 hours until they did get it. But I've had people fly to Denver from Illinois because they wanted to have one-on-one with me. I've had people who called me up and want to do it on the phone. And if they have my book in front of them, they're going through the book at the same time that I am, and I talk it through to them. So I love teaching it as much as I love reading.
Wonderful.
And have you got any students that you're proud of that went on to do lots of readings like you have?
Oh, yeah. I have people who have on their poster when they're at a fair, taught by Myrna Lou, or Myrna Lou's system is my system. They put it right on their poster. So I've taught people who are out there using it, and I'm not selfish. I don't care if they do it even in the same fair that I'm in, because everybody's take is a little different, and everybody sees it from their perspective. But the lines are the lines, and they don't, they have to read what they see there.
Well, all your information, by the way.
If I didn't like this, I wouldn't be so passionate about it. But I've been doing it all these years. I'm not going to quit now.
For those listeners who didn't catch Mary Lou's website, just come to the podcast page next week, and her website will be on the podcast information.
Okay, and they could also email me at hmg@privateeye, and it's a little letter I, privateeye.com. The reason is what I do is private, and I is me doing it, so private eye.
Cool.
Isn't that cute?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my clever way of having my own website, or my own email. So I want to thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm sure that there's so much more information that you could share with us if we had more time. But unfortunately, it's getting close to the end of the show. And so everyone, please do go and check out MyrnaLouPalmistry.com and everything that Myrna Lou offers, her books. If you're curious about palmistry and if you want to know more, then that's the place to go.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Well, listeners, you've been listening to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie, and my name's Dr. Leslie Phillips, and tonight we've been talking about palmistry. Next week we will have another exciting subject to share with you in the realm of metaphysics and spirituality.
Did you hear that, though, listeners? Our guest tonight, over 54,000 palm readings.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. But then she's 78, and she's been doing it since she was 10.
You got a ways to go to catch up to her, Dr. Leslie.
I've done about 10,000 readings, actually.
That's still ways to go.
I have. And I didn't start at 10 either, so I don't know whether I'll ever catch up to that, but oh well. Yeah, so, and listeners, if there's something that you would like us to talk about, to educate you about in the realm of metaphysics and spirituality, make sure you write to us at info@drlesliephillips.com and tell us what you want to know. We've been doing the show now for about 2 years, and we've covered a lot of material, but I'm sure there are some other things like palmistry that we haven't thought of covering, and we'd be happy to get an expert on the show to educate us about these things. And also, don't forget that you can send your questions into the show during the week. And the way to do that is if you go to my website, to info@drlesliephillips.com, and if you look along the menu at the top, there's something that says free. And actually, if you just click there, at the very top of that, there's a button that it says a free card reading. They'll actually give you a free card reading, but it also means that you can actually submit your question to the radio show if you want as well. And we try to cover as many of your questions as we can, and of course we love it when you phone the show as well. So I am going to say goodbye for today, but we will be here in the studio live next week and for the foreseeable future. We're doing an interview every other week, and I'll be doing a teaching every other week. So next week you've got me, I think. I'm not too and Corey, not too sure what the topic's going to be yet. And so if you want to write to us, maybe you can influence the topic. All right, so we don't have any Johnny K to introduce this evening. His show's changed. Now it's just going to be happening for the 2 hours before our show on Tuesdays.
It's 5 to 7.
That's right, 5 to 7. And we are 7 to 8 every Tuesday on 101.7 FM here on CIVL, broadcasting live across the Fraser Valley. And you can live stream us on civl.ca. If you miss a show, don't worry, because all you have to do is go to my website, drlesliephillips.com, and go to the podcast page, and we have got an enormous number of podcasts, and 172. You can search on any topic to do with metaphysics and spirituality, and I'm sure you'll find a podcast that gives you information about it. So do go and check that out, folks. And it's been our pleasure chatting with you tonight, and we'll be back this time next week.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's Dr. Leslie Phillips, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.